العمال وكده. فهو المهم في النقطة إنه هو التغير اللي حصل في حزب العمال من السبعينات وقت تقريبا في الثمانينات، يعني 83 ل 89.
So one writer, Dean Jensch, or Jansch, as known in Australia, a professor of politics from South Australia, he wrote a book called The Hawke-Keating Hijack. Hawke and Keating, of course, were Labor prime ministers between 1983 and the early 1990s. And if we see the policies that a lot of people take for granted today, neoliberal policies, such as deregulation, privatisation, moves against unions, etc., they actually started with the Hawke-Keating Labor governments in this country. And for that reason, Dean Jansch called this period the Hawke-Keating hijack, because the traditional policies of the Labor Party were thrown out the window. You could say that they were more interested in wooing the votes of so-called aspirationals, middle-class people in marginal seats, than they were in representing the interests of working-class people. But at the same time, they've kept a stranglehold on the trade unions, which have gone into steep decline also, at least partly because of their policies.
كده عن دين جونسون ده اللي هو كاتب الكتاب اسمه ذا هوك-كيتنج هايجاك، اللي هو كده عن الاثنين. هوك طبعا قلنا اللي هو حكم من 83 ل 89 برضه حزب العمال، وكيتن برضه فول كيتن هو حكم من 89 ل 93 تقريبا. الاثنين عمال، وكل في فترتهم هي بدات السياسه الليبراليه الجديده والخصخصه وضرب حقوق العمال وكده. فبقول يعني الشفت اللي حصل او التغيير اللي حصل في حزب العمال، وانه طبعا هيجاك له اختطاف انه الناس دي اختطفوا حقوق الحركه العماليه، او حزب العمال تحول لحزب فكره الحزب اليميني.
So, where are we today? I'd say that there are still some honest people in the Labor Party. There still are some socialists in the Labor Party, but they're becoming very, very rare. Why are they there? Maybe they don't see any alternative. They don't think any of the existing left parties are strong enough, influential enough to join, so they stay there. The party also still maintains a working class base. Like traditionally, workers have voted for the Labor Party, and working class people, by and large, still continue to vote for them. Some people would argue that we should vote Labor because it's the lesser of two evils. And yes, Abbott was pretty dreadful. The Conservatives are dreadful when they're in office, and as my son today put it, he said that the Labor Party, however, it's like someone's put a sponge around their fist and they hit you, whereas the Liberals will just take the sponge off and hit you. How much difference is there really between the two parties?
بتكلم عن انه هو في ناس كويسه استقلال في حزب العمال، لكن مستغرب انه هم لسه ليه قاعدين فيه يعني. فبيقول يعني الناس ذاتهم بيصوتوا في حزب العمال لانه زي يقول أصوات شرطين، ما في أفضل السيء.
So, under Bill Shorten, I think it's pretty obvious that the party is moving further and further to the right. We know that the Royal Commission into Trade Unions is a witch hunt by Tony Abbott, but it has turned up some pretty shocking things about Bill Shorten, about sweetheart deals that he did with employers when he was a union official, when he was the federal president of the Australian Workers Union. And basically the party, well, it's going to go down to defeat at the next election. I think we have to ask ourselves, is it really in any form a Labor Party anymore? Is it very different now to the American Democrats, the Democratic Party, for instance? So I'm just finishing here with a series of questions. What chance is there of a Jeremy Corbyn in Australia, in the Labor Party? Jeremy Corbyn, of course, was the left-wing leader of the British Labor Party, who has recently scored an amazing victory in gaining the leadership. What chance of that in Australia? And maybe something to discuss, is it time for a new party of Labor?
طبعا بيل شورتون ده اللي هو زي حزب العمال حاليا، فبيقول انه يعني حزب العمال هو ماشي في الداون، يعني ماشي في النهايه. ما بقى اي حاجه يعني. بقارن جيرمي كوبن اللي هو رئيس تقريبا هو السيد لغايه في حزب العمال البريطاني موجود. وبيقول هل حزب العمال الاسترالي حيمشي يبقى زي الحزب الديمقراطي الامريكي يعني حاجه حزب ليبرالي اقرب لكن انه كل الموروث بتاع الحركه العماليه وكلام عن الحركات النقابيه وكده انه خلاص انتهى. فبقول هي دي النهايه بعد الشخص اللي اسمه بيل شورتن اللي هو حزب العمال الحالي.
So thank you, comrades. I've spoken long enough anyway.
And now we got our next speaker, Super. الأسئلة حتكون بعد ما سوف تتكلم بعد الأسئلة.